Whether you're planning a commercial shoot or just a social edit, one of my favorite things to do is to come up with new transitions and different ways to keep a film visually engaging. In this video, I wanted to share how I come up with my transitions, how I plan for them before my shoot, and then how I organize my projects afterwards to make editing the easiest part of the process. All right, so most people might think that fluid transitions are part of the editing process and they just come up after you finish shooting. But the best transitions are actually meticulously planned before you go out to film anything. This was a difficult concept for me to grasp because I'm not the most organized person, and oftentimes I like to just go out and shoot and find different angles that looked cool and think of transitions on the spot. And for a lot of people, that's very difficult to do because it takes a lot of experience, and oftentimes you don't get the best transitions on the spot just because of a lack of time or just a lack of creative ideas flowing. So if you think about the coolest transitions that you've seen recently, oftentimes they're not as complicated as you think. They're really just basically camera movement continuity, match cutting, or just seamless motion that allows for a fluid transition that feels really natural and it just feels good. When I'm thinking of new transitions, a lot of times I like to think of real life movements, things that either initiate or stop movement. It could be the unzipping of a bag, it could be an act of like kicking or stomping. Some sort of action that initiates a transition is one of my favorites. Finding different ways to continue camera movement is another way to make seamless transitions. I think an easy way to go about this is to just show you an example of a pre-production that I've done for a client shoot where it was many different transitions that were planned meticulously beforehand and came out pretty seamlessly in the edit. So this video is sponsored by Milano, and Milano is one of my favorite platforms for pre-production. It's a great way to get your ideas visually on screen, and it's just a great way to organize your thoughts before a shoot. This is my Milano board for a recent shoot that I did for New Balance, and I did 2 separate videos, both shot in the same day. Before I hop into the actual shot list and show you exactly how I planned each of these transitions in these 2 videos, let me quickly go over my general board here. And so I love to utilize these checklists, and in these checklists, oftentimes I'll do a to-do list, and so these are just minute tasks that you might forget as you're packing. And so I've got charge Sony batteries, load SD cards, pack VND. These are things that as you do before your shoot, you can just check off really easily. And it's a great way to kind of like put your most forgotten tasks. As minute as they sound, sometimes I forget to load my SD cards. It's a pretty rookie mistake, but it happens to everybody. So I like to keep it in my tasks to do. And then over here in video gear, I like to do the same thing, but in terms of specifically what I need for each sort of transition or each scene in the video. A couple of other things I like to add are a general timeline of the project, and this kind of just varies depending on what your project is. For this particular project, I think we mood boarded for about a week. We had a shoot, and then the actual edit didn't go live for a while. Oftentimes I like to screenshot a Google Calendar and just write. A great feature of Milano is you can actually draw specifically on your different elements, and I like to use the pen, either my iPad or right here, just to kind of scribble key dates and figure out what I need. You can just click save, and then afterwards you can, of course, delete these. And it's a great way to visually organize your calendars, your different planning structures. I'm a big fan. The thing that I really wanted to talk on in this video is the shot list. And this is exactly how I organized my transitions for this video. Now, if we just go quickly through the flow of the video, a lot of times I like to take screen grabs or screen recordings. I use an application called CleanShot X where you can screen record and grab GIFs or just videos, and you can just click and drag these GIFs into your board and they seamlessly sync. And it's a great way to visually see the actual transitions rather than having just screen grabs. Here's a GIF and here's an actual video. So the first shot we have here is just a dolly zoom transition that I have in reference that I wanted to start the video with, and then I wanted to transition into these quick cuts, these slow motion and just gimbal movements of Mashiho. Moving along, this is a reference from one of my old videos where I have Cody actually catching the camera. And this is a key big transition that I wanted in the very middle section from the first outfit to the second outfit. And I wanted this transition really to be the bridge between the two outfits, because this New Balance shoot basically had two separate outfits that we wanted to highlight. And so I wanted to start in the first outfit, and as he caught the actual camera, be in the second outfit. I then wanted to do one of my favorite speed ramp transitions between the different sort of details of his outfit, and I wanted to finish with just some fine detailed shots of his final look. The second video of Monaco was a little bit more kind of chill, and it wasn't as kind of fast paced, but I still wanted to make it visually intriguing. And so here we just have a few interactive opening detail movements with various angles of clothing. I think for this, it was very key that I get a variety of different shots, and I had her also kind of move and act in different ways to make the shots visually appealing, not just with the camera movement, but the actual actress movement. The big transition for this one was I wanted a quick flash transition between the first and second environment. This reference is just maybe 6 or 7 different quick flash scenes, and the sound design was really nice on this, and so I wanted to use this as my reference. And the client really wanted to focus on the outfit, so in the end I had some final kind of fine detailed shots of Monaco as she's walking and kind of as she's sitting. And these shots actually mirrored pretty well the final video. And as you can see from here, the actual locations that they sent for references, they're kind of similar. The first was a kind of like art studio, and the second was a cafe. And from this, I kind of knew that I needed to really kind of focus in on the details of the outfits because the environments were so similar, and figure out different ways to do like fast-paced cuts and macro shots to really bring the whole edit together. As you'll notice, the actual pre-production and the final edit came out super similarly. That's because I did a lot of work in the pre-production and the planning phase and figuring out what I needed in terms of gear and the types of transitions that I was going to plan out. Milanote is a great platform to do all of your pre-production, and it's something that I use for every commercial project. If you're interested in learning more, click the link down below in the description. And thanks Milanote for sponsoring today's video. So even from those two New Balance videos, there is a couple different themes that are present throughout both those transitions and all the transitions that I ever do. The foundation of those transitions and almost all of my transitions are either a match cut or some sort of continuity of movement. The whole point of a transition is to figure out how to link two scenes and make the bridge fluid and continuous. To give you another example, the best speed ramps, and I've done multiple videos on speed ramping, the best speed rampings are basically just speed increases between the same movement across different environments. You probably have like 4 or 5 clips that basically are shot the exact same way. And by speed ramping between the clips, you continue that similar motion across different scenes, and the whole clip or the whole video feels seamless because there's that continuity of movement. The kick transition that I've done on this channel recently, again, that's just a kick triggering that speed ramping or continuity of movement. The shot transition that I've done before, again, is a similar style of an action triggering continuity of movement. The catch transition is speed ramping, but also a continuity of a whip pan between two different scenes. These are all examples of motion links. Additionally, there are match cuts. Match cuts are when you find different parts of your scene or parts of your frame and you visually match them between two different clips. Okay, so these basic concepts, you know that you need to flow in movement or flow some sort of visual element of the scene. What are some ways that you can come up with interesting ways to blend these ideas together? A few things I like to do. I just like to keep an archive, whether that be my Instagram saved on social media, my TikTok saved, or just screen recording and keeping a folder on my desktop of different pieces of visual inspiration, whether that be action or movement initiating action or different framing techniques. I'm always keeping an eye out for visual combinations or different things that seem interesting in the world. But more often than not, I'm looking for action triggers. Triggers in terms of things that can initiate movement. If you look at a lot of my favorite transitions, they're often triggered by a particular movement. And this comes around the whole idea of interactivity and trying to break this fourth wall between the viewer and the subject or the people behind the camera. I just think it's super fun to feel like you're a part of the experience and figuring out different ways where a transition has some sort of action, a relatable action, and then linking that to either continuities of movement through sound design, through motion whips, through movement transitions, and kind of ending up with like an aha moment or something where you're like, oh, that's pretty intriguing or that's pretty interesting. Those are my favorite kinds of transitions. Once I come up with a few different ideas, then it's all about planning. It's all about figuring out what specific shots I need in the actual shooting process that make my editing process a lot lot easier. So once I have a transition idea in my mind, a lot of times I like to go ahead and actually figure out the specific lens or focal length that I want to use for each part of my scene, and then also figure out the different pieces of equipment, whether that be like a tripod, a gimbal, and just make a list of what I need for each scene. That way in the shooting process, I can just kind of check off each scene as I go. And I oftentimes like to group different scenes with the actual gear that you use. And by doing so, you make your whole shooting process a lot easier, a lot quicker, a lot more streamlined, because you just knock out all the different shots on, for instance, the 10mm lens, and then you knock out all the shots on your gimbal, and then you finish with all of your kind of locked off tripod shots. It makes your entire shooting process a lot smoother, a lot quicker. And if you plan out your productions, you'll find that you can save a lot of time in between setups and overall just get everybody in and out a lot quicker. If you got everything planned like that and you finish your shoot super smoothly, then you just need to go ahead and basically just chop everything up in the edit. Obviously, a lot of different transitions are perhaps a little bit more complicated, require more After Effects, more VFX, different things, but a lot of transitions are actually done mostly in pre-production. The idea is what makes them so visually engaging. And if you do a lot of the heavy lifting beforehand, then the edit becomes a lot more streamlined. So if you're trying to level up your edits, oftentimes it's how you plan them. Transitions aren't just an editing trick, it's a whole pre-production mindset. Even something as simple as sketching them out, creating a Milanote board, or even pre-selecting your music can make your video 10 times stronger before you even press record. If you're interested in seeing a detailed breakdown on how I set up my edits, in particular, I do what's called a radio edit, which is basically I do all of my transitions and planning in the audio phase before I lay even a single visual clip. It's something that I do in every single project. And if you're interested in it, comment the words radio edit and I'll create a video and post it on this channel very soon. I hope some of these techniques in this video helped out. If you have any questions on anything, leave them in the comments down below. Or if you have a more streamlined, refined process that you'd like to share with the community, again, leave them down in the comments below. If you're interested in my LUTs, my sound design, my PowerGrade, I've redone my entire shop. It's a lot more clean. It's a great way to help support and grow this channel. Thanks again for sticking around to the very end, and I'll see you guys in the next one.